Hey everybody, I'm back already. I wanna tell you about here's how a typical conversation, and I guess that's a polite word, a typical conversation goes between myself and somebody who does not understand MMT, or a person just who wants to remain ignorant. Here's how it goes. I had one of these conversations on Facebook the other day just because somebody said, Mike, could you educate this person? And whenever I hear that, I know it's just like it's going to be an impossible task. And usually I decline the invitation, but sometimes the person just says something and I have to make a comment back. I'm sorry, I just have to make a comment back. And by the way, some of you here, let me just explain something to you here, right? Because I've seen some comments up here like, that MMT has been discredited. It doesn't work. Let me explain something right now. Let me clarify something for you. MMT is not policy. MMT is a description, an explanation. It just like physics is a description of the natural world. If I say force equals mass times acceleration, which is correct in physics, that explains the equation for what force is. If you say, well, look, that car, it's sitting there, it's not applying any force, so it's a fantasy. There's no acceleration. There's mass, but there's no acceleration. If I say, the reason why an object dropped from a tall building falls to the ground is because of gravity. It explains the phenomenon of an object falling to the earth. If you say, well, it doesn't happen in space because there's no gravity. Well, there is gravity. There's gravity between galaxies. There's gravity between large objects. But yes, in close confines in space, there's zero gravity. So MMT is just an explanation. When you say it doesn't work, that's like saying mass times acceleration doesn't work. That's like saying gravity doesn't work. I mean, it's just an explanation. Are we applying MMT in our policy today? No. Have we ever really applied it? Partially at times. We applied it during the Depression. We apply it, and I should take back what I just said. We're definitely applying it with military Keynesianism that we have here. The military just got a $700 billion budget. Where'd it get it from? Congress just said, hey, now we're going to give the military $700 billion. Hey, we need to fight a war. We need $1 trillion. Hey, here's $1 trillion to go fight a war. Could do the same thing and it works. It keeps us in wars. Look, I think today is the 16th anniversary of this ridiculous war in Afghanistan, okay? We've been spending and spending and spending just, I guess, because as a nation, we like war. What can I tell you? It works, okay? Unfortunately, we utilize it in all the wrong areas. I mean, we should be rebuilding our infrastructure and, giving health care to people and basic science and research and education and all that kind of stuff, which I've said many, many times over. Anyway, here's how a typical conversation goes. So the guy's like, that MMT, that's a bunch of garbage. My taxes pay for government spending. Otherwise, it's just money printing, which I say, first of all government spending is money printing. I mean, you got to get over it. We don't dig it up out of the ground. And number two, in order for anyone to pay their taxes, if we're talking about dollars or any sovereign currency, in order for anyone to have those dollars to pay the taxes, the government's got to spend the dollars into existence in the first place. They don't just appear out of nowhere. You don't print the dollars up in your home. The Chinese don't make the dollars in some factory over in China. The government has to spend the dollars into existence for you to even have a dollar to pay your taxes. So it's like, in this case, it should be very clear which comes first. The dollars have to be created first. Then you go out through your labor and your wits and your industriousness, and you collect as many dollars as you can, and then the government levies a tax on you and you give some back. I gave the example of the Monopoly game. You can't play the game unless the money is distributed first, okay? So then the guy, usually the guy, well, in this case, the guy kind of went silent and he said, the whole thing's going to go bust, all right? And then he goes back to, it comes from foreigners are paying. I'm like, what do you mean foreigners are paying? He said foreigners are paying, they're buying treasuries. I'm like, how do they buy treasuries? They're buying treasuries with their currency. I'm like, you can't buy treasuries with anything other than a dollar. I mean, if you go with yen or British pounds or euros or Canadian dollars or Australian dollars or New Zealand dollars, if you go buy a treasury, they're going to say exchange that currency. It's not even that they don't want to take it. There's no capacity for them to take it. The Fed cannot have. There's no ability of the Fed to make bookkeeping entries in foreign currency. The Fed, it's all in dollars. All right. Every foreign currency exists on the books of whatever central bank issues that currency or whatever nation. All right. So he says, well, yeah, I just exchange it for dollars. And then we're back at the same point again. I say, well, where did the dollars come from? So it's just, we keep coming back to the same point. All right, the dollars, I pay my taxes. No, where did those dollars come from to pay your taxes? I mean, people, this is not that hard. You have to just sit down and think about it, okay? Like a lot of you are so deep into your dogma and ideology and wrong thinking. And it's like maybe scary for you to bust out of that wrong thinking. I used to be the same way. I mean, before I stumbled onto MMT, I was this guy. I mean, I spent years. I was one of the first regular guest hosts of that CNBC show Squawk Box when they launched that in 1995. All right, I used to sit near the late Mark Haynes. And I used to say, America's going bankrupt, the dollar's going to hell, China finances us, we're a debtor nation, like Jim Rogers. I used to say all that stuff until, the light bulb came on when I learned and understood MMT and the correct, and not, MMT is not some magical thing. It's just an explanation, like I said before. It explains how the monetary system functions, okay? Very simple. So some of you don't want to hear it. So, if you think about it, and again, it's not that difficult to understand. You can't pay your taxes until the dollars are distributed into the economy first, okay? Nobody has the ability to create dollars other than the sovereign, and the sovereign is the United States government. You can't play Monopoly unless somebody distributes the money to the game first, to the players. You can't drain a swimming pool until you fill it up first. I mean, I don't know why all this stuff is so hard to understand. And you cannot buy a treasury with anything other than a dollar. And a person from Japan with yen, yes, he can exchange those yen for dollars. But again, where did the dollars come from? All right, they didn't just exist like out of nothing. They were spent into existence by government spending. That's how they are created. All right, everybody. Don't be stupid, okay? Bye.